Coming up on Network Africa, ECOWAS lifts Mali sanctions as senior military personnel take up key positions in the new government. Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera backtracks on his campaign promise to create 1 million jobs. Plus, Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio suspends civil servants implicated in a graft report. Thank you for joining us on the program. Welcome. I'm Layo Adegoke. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has lifted sanctions imposed on Mali following a coup that ousted President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in August. Now, this comes after military authorities formed the transitional government comprising of army officials and civilians. Transitional President Ba Ndor has appointed a 25-member cabinet in which senior military personnel were given several key posts. According to a presidential decree read out on state television, the ministries of Defense, Security, Territorial Administration, and National Reconciliation are all to be led by colonels in the Malian military. Only 4 posts were given to women and just 2 posts for members of the opposition M5 that headed protests which led to President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta being ousted by the military. President Ndor, who had a career in the Air Force, was handpicked to be president of the country by the coup leaders. Well, let's get more on this story from African Affairs analyst Okwi Okpala. Thank you so much, Dr. Okpala, for speaking to us on Network Africa. ECOWAS has just lifted sanctions it imposed on Mali. What do you make of this decision, considering the fact that President Ba Ndor appointed senior military officers to key positions?
ECOWAS may not have a lot of cards to play. They may not have a lot of room to maneuver, to force the military to do. So they have to compromise. They have to encourage them. But what will happen, I haven't lifted the sanctions. I believe that these sanctions should have been lifted piecemeal. And, and incrementally, as they incrementally move towards democracy, more and more incentives should be given to the transitional government. So that's what they should design, a system whereby they are being encouraged to move towards, as they move closer and closer in their to full transition, then they will get more and more benefits and more recognition. However, I think that maybe the starting point may be the leaders of ECOWAS may think that, okay, the first thing we do is, let's just encourage them. They've taken the first 2 steps. Let's take this step of lifting sanctions and continue to engage and continue to monitor and continue to dialogue on the way forward. Well, it is neither here nor there, but what is important is that to know that let them have a common goal and let their eyes never be off the ball. Let their eyes always be on the ball, and the other is to make sure that full democracy is restored to Mali. Yes, the preponderance of the military elements in the transition government is really very concerning, because especially those of the coup plotters, they have not executed the agenda, and they're not likely going to forget it easily. However, for there to be a full restoration to democracy, it's important that the stakeholders, the civil society in Mali, the international community, ECOWAS, United Nations, France, that they are all at alert and putting pressure on the government to move steadily towards the restoration of democracy. It's important for Mali, it's important for West Africa, it's important for the world, and it's important for their colonial masters, France. If we let down the guards, I fear that full-blown military government will come back to Mali. But if there is consistent engagement backed by threat of serious sanction and serious other consequences, I believe that, well, they will manage to put them and guide them towards restoration of full democracy, or at least a semblance of it.
All right. The president, the transitional president, Barton Dor, he's appointed a 25-member cabinet, and several key posts have been given to military personnel. There are fears, though, that these appointments could derail the country's democracy. Do you agree?
The appointment by President Barr, himself a former military leader and former defense minister, of the coup leader as the vice president, and a civilian former foreign minister as the prime minister, is a compromise position between those who want full restoration of democracy and the elements that wants a full-blown military regime to administer the country. And it reminds me of what happened in Nigeria when President Ibrahim Babangida stepped down and appointed Chief HNS Seneko to be the head of interim government. Of course, that government was encircled by military elements and didn't have a lot of, enough room to do much. So the military were more or less still controlling things, and eventually they pushed the government out. I believe Nigerian situation should be a lesson to Mali and to be a lesson to ECOWAS, that even though there may be semblance of civilians running the show, but actually those who are dictating everything are the military. Those who staked their life for the coup are still there, and they have not changed their thoughts. They've not changed their intentions. I think what has happened is that they have been forced to make some concessions because of the sanctions that are being threatened, that the international community, led by ECOWAS, are threatening. So I think there is still a lot of time for caution. There is need for us, for all the stakeholders, to continue to engage the military, continue to be vigilant, and continue to monitor situation in Mali, because it is not yet to rule. In fact, they will still have a long way to go towards restoration of democracy.
All right then, Dr. Okwi Okwala, African Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for speaking to us on the program. Move on to Malawi, where the president, Lazarus Chakwera, has backtracked on his campaign promise to create 1 million jobs, saying the government can only employ 200,000 people. President Chakwera says the government cannot create jobs on its own and so will need the help of the private sector. The president made this statement while speaking during his 100-day scorecard event on Monday. The 1 million campaign promise was a major talking point for the Tonse Alliance that was elected in a repeat presidential poll. However, critics are saying that the alliance had no job creation plan and was just using it as a campaign strategy. Well, Yvonne Sundu, a Malawian journalist, joins us now for more details about this. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for speaking to us on the program.
You're welcome.
Now, how are Malawians rating President Chakwera's first 100 days in office?
Honestly speaking, it's been a mixed bag. There are those that are supporting what he has achieved in these 100 days, and then there are those that are not appreciating what he has done. So it's difficult, to put on a scale and then to see where the scale is tilting against, in terms of what the odds are in terms of seeing or gauging where the president stands. Suffice to say that one of the trigger issues is what has been highlighted, which is the promise that was made during campaign period that within the first 6 months, rather within the first 1 year, the president, the Tonse government is going to create 1 million jobs. That has been a sticker issue during the campaign period, because people were questioning the rationale behind that promise and how government intends to make sure that it creates those jobs. And here we are, 100 days into the office. The president has acknowledged that it is impossible for the Tonse government to create 1 million jobs, but rather 200,000 jobs.
But what is the reason for this? What has changed?
Probably, things that African politicians are known for, making promises without necessarily trying to dig deep into finding exactly what is supposed to be done. So probably that was one of the issues. The Tonse government was not too sure of how it was going to maneuver in terms of creating those 1 million jobs. And now they're in the government, they've been caught off guard to realize that there's just so much that goes on into running the affairs of the government. I'm saying this because yesterday during the press conference that's on I acknowledge the fact that running government is serious business. So probably because he's inside, he has seen the shenanigans of what running government is, and he has realized that it's impossible, to create those 1 million jobs. And I should also mention the fact that some of the questions that the press were asking yesterday during the press conference that was organized at State House, he had acknowledged the fact that the press came prepared. They were gun blazing in terms of the questions that were being asked, which in essence shows that he's able to appreciate the fact that people are following what he's doing and people are keeping an eye on him. And then a slight mistake, well, people might react to that.
So what are Malawians expecting going forward? How optimistic are they that their hopes will be fulfilled?
It's still a case of 50-50 because looking at some of the issues that the president highlighted on Monday during the press conference as achievements, these are issues that some Malawians are saying that they are not achievements. For example, the issue of the president appointing parastatal boards. For most Malawians, it was supposed to happen. It was bound to happen that the president is going to institute new boards. But then an achievement would be how these boards are running, how these boards are in operation. Whatever these boards are going to achieve is what is going to be an achievement that is going to reflect on the Tonse government led by Lazarus Chakwera. Similarly, the issue of appointing a 30-member cabinet, for most Malawians, is not an achievement because it was bound to happen. So moving forward, the eyes of most Malawians are on the fact that they want to see the appointments that have been made, how these appointments are going to perform. And then at the same time, the past 100 days, Malawians have seen a change in terms of service leadership. So they are also going to continue looking at how this change is going to continue. And then there is a talk of the president trying to stamp his authority on combating corruption. That's also another aspect that is going to be of particular interest to most Malawians. So as it stands, it's not definitive to say what exactly Malawians are looking forward to, but they just want the president to deliver.
All right then, Yvonne Sundu, thank you so much for speaking to us. Malawian journalist joining us there from Lilongwe.
You're welcome.
Well, Ethiopia is preparing for elections and President Saleh Work Zewde is promising that the upcoming elections will be free and fair. The country is scheduled to hold its elections before September next year. And the president says some reforms have been done on the Electoral Commission to ensure its independence. President Saleh told a joint parliamentary sitting that the government will ensure peace, stability and security. The current administration is serving an extended term after the election was postponed because of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the police in Tanzania have blocked the convoy of opposition presidential candidate Tundu Lissu after he defied a ban not to campaign for a week. The ban by the National Electoral Commission, NEC, was imposed following complaints from the ruling CCM party and the opposition NRA party. The parties accused Mr. Lissu of falsely claiming that President John Magufuli had held a secret meeting with district bosses with the intention of influencing the outcome of the polls. The ban is scheduled to end on Friday. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Still ahead on the program. A young Somali social rights activist, Edward Elman, identified as a possible contender for the Nobel Peace Prize. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. The South African High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador Thami Meseleku, is calling for a concerted effort between Nigeria and South Africa to isolate criminals creating a bad image for the two countries. He made this known during a courtesy visit to Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, the Chairman CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission in Abuja. Ambassador Meseleku says there is urgent need to activate the early warning system EAS under the binational commission signed by the two countries to stem the tide of criminality. He also debunked rumors that Nigerians have been asked to vacate the country.
The High Commission is ready to actually work on a program, and I do indicate to you, Your Excellency, that as part of the Nigeria-South Africa binational commission, there was an agreement that we need to develop a mechanism for early warning systems in relation to what happens in South Africa, and that agreement actually talks about two elements. It's more security and intelligence driven on the one hand, but on the other hand, which I think is the most important, the sort of conversations and people-to-people relations. And I thought your commission is very, very critical to have as part of that element and people-to-people relations. And
On receiving the South African envoy in her office, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa says that many Nigerians in South Africa are contributing to both the national development of the two countries. She said that lack of knowledge on the part of some people in South Africa was responsible for the xenophobic attacks, adding that the Commission is ready to work with the High Commissioner to nip it in the bud.
We want to work with you basically in terms of the people-to-people engagement. We already have a program put together by a Nigerian lady in South Africa on what can be done here in terms of having that conversation among the people. There's no conversation, there's no problem government to government. The problem is the people to people. A few Nigerians definitely have committed some crimes in South Africa, but that doesn't make every Nigerian a criminal. A few South Africans have put up some xenophobic attacks, but that doesn't make every South African xenophobic. And it's very important for Nigeria and South Africa for us to have those conversations, people-to-people level, and then cultural exchanges.
In Sierra Leone, President Julius Maada Bio has suspended civil servants who were implicated in a graft report. Those suspended include the Minister of Agriculture, Dennis Vandi, and the Secretary to the Vice President, Baba Fortune. The graft report by a special commission of inquiry implicated several former and current civil servants in the theft of public funds. However, Minister Vandi says he is innocent and was never given an opportunity to defend himself by the commission of inquiry. All those implicated have been given 3 months to appeal. Women's rights activists in South Sudan are calling on their leaders to recognize the crucial role women play in preventing conflict and forging peace and reconciliation in war-torn countries. According to a displaced women's leader in Malakal, the government should listen to the calls of women for once because they carry messages of peace.
Rebecca Buchai is a displaced women's rights leader in South Sudan's second largest city of Malakal and is currently residing in a UN Protection of Civilians site. With the upcoming transition of the site into a conventional camp for internally displaced persons, she said she believes now is the time for the South Sudanese people and authorities to shape durable peace together and make sure peace is an inclusive, participatory process for women as well as men.
We are seeking peace. We're calling for peace. We want peace in our hearts. The government must care for all of us and listen to the calls of women for once. Our children have been orphaned due to conflict. We are demanding peace, but there is no peace, no stability, no security. The country is unstable. The country is totally collapsed.
Bachai also highlighted the importance of development across South Sudan and its economic benefits for youth and women.
For a good future, there must be development, because our country has abundant natural resources. If we keep our nation close to our hearts and stay united, we'll see that the rivers have resources, the forests have resources, the air has resources, the land has resources, especially in Upper Nile. If we unite, nothing will defeat us in Upper Nile State. It's a vast land that has work for the men. Men don't think about fighting, they think of development for the future generations.
In the meantime, Bachai says she hopes to soon reunite with her family, many of whom have sought refuge in different parts of the country.
Heads of 5 UN agencies have launched the Education Plus initiative that's aimed at empowering adolescent girls and young women in sub-Saharan Africa. At a press encounter for the launch of the initiative, the executive director of the United Nations Population Fund says this will help girls and young women make better decisions about their lives and their communities.
When that girl is equipped in her adolescence with information about her own body, about her sexual and reproductive health, when she can exercise her rights, when she's respected equally, that's when she's better able to assert herself and her future changes. She can make a better decision about her own life, to participate in the life of her community, and to lead and to transform her world.
Additional interventions, what we call the plus to education, to a girl staying in school up to the end of high school, are comprehensive sexuality education, because we know when that is there, when a girl knows her choices and understands her body, she takes control and she's safe. Secondly, sexual and reproductive health services that work for her. Third, removing violence, sexual violence, gender-based violence in the school space, tackling toxic masculinities amongst boys, and providing school-to-work transition skills.
So adolescent girls are a tremendous engine of progress. They drive economies, they transform communities, and they lead change in the world. But only if we give them a chance, only if we support them with the right resources and support. As you have been hearing, ending child marriage, preventing abuse and violence, supporting their health at every stage of development, and finding new ways to provide the greatest tool of all, education.
A 30-year-old Somali social rights activist, Ewald Elman, is a possible contender for the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize Award. Elman spent her childhood in Canada before returning to Somalia in 2010 in her early 20s, together with her mother, Fortune Adan. Now, she co-founded and currently leads the Elman Peace and Human Rights Center in Mogadishu. Elman Peace engages in a number of peace-related agendas, ranging from youth activism and peace education to skill training and job creation, as well as fighting gender-based violence.
What TEDx Mogadishu does, it actually brings people together. It allows them to just sit back and listen to what's happening and to have an opportunity to interact with like-minded individuals.
Well, we wish her all the best. And that's it on Network Africa for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.